Now, there's more bad news for German car makers, with heavyweights Volkswagen and Mercedes-Benz posting year-on-year declines of over 40% in net profits for the first quarter of 2025. The car makers blamed lower sales in China for some of their woes, but forecasts for their profits for the months ahead are looking pretty cloudy too. Both industry giants have recently warned of the effect of US President Donald Trump's tariffs on car imports from the European Union.
It didn't start with a factory shutting down or a big press conference. It started with something quieter: a pause, a delay, empty shipping schedules, and silence from Europe's biggest car makers. Then came May 23, 2025. President Donald Trump broke that silence with one sharp announcement: a 50% tariff on all European Union imports, effective June 1st, unless automakers moved their production to the US. He didn't leave room for negotiation. Not maybe, not possibly. Just do it or pay the price. That threat hit hard. It sent shockwaves through an already fragile alliance, but Germany didn't back down. It didn't surrender. It adapted. Volkswagen, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Audi, Porsche. The five pillars of Germany's industrial power didn't pack their bags. Instead, they froze. They paused shipments. They restructured. They redrew supply routes, quietly, carefully, strategically, all with one goal: survival. Before we go any further, make sure to hit that like button. It helps us beat the algorithm and keeps you in the loop. This isn't just another back and forth over trade policy. This is a full-on economic standoff, and it's hitting right at the core of transatlantic commerce. For the first time in modern history, it's actually working. Why? Because German automakers, the same brands that once shaped what Americans thought of luxury, performance, and precision, are facing something unprecedented. The environment has become so unpredictable, so punishing, that standing still might be riskier than pulling out entirely. Let's start with Audi. There was no big press release, no flashy PR move, just a quiet internal memo. All vehicle shipments to the US are frozen until further notice. That memo went into effect on April 2nd. Today is May 23rd, and that freeze is still holding. Audi's most popular SUV in the US, the Q5, is built in Mexico. Its sedans come from Germany. Not a single model is made on US soil. And now, none are being shipped in. At the time the freeze began, Audi had around 37,000 cars already sitting on US lots, about 2 months' worth of supply. They've been burning through it ever since, eyes fixed on Washington. Porsche took a different route. It raced to get 5,000 extra vehicles onto US soil before the tariff deadline, trying to pad its inventory before things got worse. Mercedes-Benz followed a similar playbook, beefing up stock at dealerships in Alabama, Las Vegas, and New York. Volkswagen took a harder stance, halting rail shipments of the Jetta, Tiguan, and Taos from Mexico. BMW froze exports of several sedans built in Europe. Then came the next move: price suppression. Automakers, sensing the pressure, held off on raising prices. BMW held the line for weeks, until finally this month they raised prices by 4% on their Mexico-built 2 Series. Audi bumped prices modestly on new A5 models. Porsche hasn't raised prices yet, but they're meeting daily to talk about it. Lamborghini, still holding steady but watching Ferrari closely, which has already made a quiet move to raise sticker prices. Meanwhile, in the US, the Trump administration isn't easing up. It's doubling down. After the initial 25% tariff on imported cars in April, Trump has now threatened to crank it up to 50%. Not just on cars, but on all European Union imports. And it's not just about cars anymore. He's also targeting Apple, demanding that iPhone production shift to American factories, or face the same steep tariff. Apple's stock dropped nearly 4% in pre-market trading. The market's panicked. Europe didn't back down, but it's cornered, and it responded with a warning of its own. Before we go any further, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It helps us grow and keeps you in the loop on everything that's happening. The European Commission, led by President Ursula von der Leyen, is preparing a massive €95 billion retaliation package. It targets a wide range of American goods, including bourbon, motorcycles, aircraft, machinery, and yes, cars. Brussels has given Washington a deadline: resolve the dispute by July, or face a trade wall of its own. Behind closed doors, German officials are preparing for every possible outcome. In Berlin, Economy Minister Robert Habeck made it clear, "We will not back down in the face of the United States." And in Munich, Chancellor Olaf Scholz told reporters that closing factories isn't the answer, but strategic adjustments may soon be unavoidable. In fact, those adjustments are already underway. No German automaker has formally pulled out of the U.S. market, but their actions speak volumes. Across the board, companies are shifting production, freezing imports, slashing discretionary spending, and redrawing their long-term plans for North America. BMW's South Carolina plant, its largest in the world, is running at full capacity. Mercedes-Benz has ordered a 25% budget cut across its U.S. operations. Audi and Porsche, for the first time in their history, are exploring American manufacturing. Not out of ambition, but out of necessity. If tariffs rise to 50%, continuing to rely on imports may no longer be financially viable. And now, the dominoes are beginning to fall. Volvo, not a German brand, but a clear signal of what's ahead, has already canceled U.S. orders for its Chinese-made S90 sedan and announced a 5% workforce reduction at its South Carolina facility. BMW has postponed the U.S. launch of its new electric Mini. Mercedes has paused an upcoming model debut. Audi has frozen all shipments headed for North America. Porsche is actively considering moving production of a future model from Europe to the U.S. None of this is speculative. It's happening, right now. Meanwhile, Brussels is preparing to file a formal complaint at the World Trade Organization, challenging the legality of President Trump's escalating tariffs. The EU has also drafted a $100 billion retaliation list, ready to launch if no agreement is reached by July. If both sides follow through, the impact will be severe. European automakers will face punishing tariffs bringing cars into the U.S., and American automakers will face retaliatory duties on every vehicle sold in Europe. The fallout for Ford, General Motors, and Tesla would be immediate. But for German brands, it could be worse. While U.S. automakers have spent years investing in domestic production, German companies, especially Audi, BMW, and Porsche, still rely heavily on import routes. And those routes are now closing. So what does this mean for consumers? It means inventory shortages. It means longer wait times. It means price hikes. That Audi you've been eyeing, it might not be available anymore. The BMW you pre-ordered, delayed. That Porsche lease, it could cost $10,000 more. And for dealerships across the country, many of which depend on steady monthly sales to stay afloat, the squeeze has already begun. Advertising budgets are being slashed. Hiring is on hold. And as summer approaches, many are bracing for a season of uncertainty or worse, chaos. Meanwhile, the pressure isn't just hitting factories and dealerships. It's hitting Germany itself. A recent study from the Munich-based IFO Institute paints a stark picture. If U.S. tariffs go through and the expected retaliation follows, Germany's economy could shrink by nearly 2%, a contraction not seen since the global financial crisis. That's not just a headline. That's real pain. Nearly 1/5 of the German auto industry's earnings come from exports to the United States. If that revenue dries up, the shockwaves won't stop at Germany's borders. They'll ripple across the entire Eurozone. And this isn't just about cars anymore. A full-scale trade war between the U.S. and Europe would bleed into aviation, agriculture, technology, and energy. Prices would rise everywhere. Global growth would slow. And the economic backbone of NATO, already straining under the weight of Russia's war in Ukraine and rising tensions in the Indo-Pacific, could buckle. Which brings us back to the automakers, the ones caught in the middle. For now, they're not panicking. They're calculating, watching, waiting, making surgical adjustments to stay afloat. Volkswagen hasn't shut down any factories, but it's stopped sending new shipments across the Atlantic. BMW is still in the U.S., but it's quietly raised prices and delayed product launches. Mercedes-Benz continues building SUVs in Alabama, but its global strategy is under serious review. Audi has frozen all U.S.-bound imports. Porsche is holding prices steady, for now. Everyone is bracing for the next move, because the next 4 weeks will decide everything. If tariffs jump to 50% and the EU hits back, the economic logic that has kept German automakers invested in the U.S. begins to fall apart. And when that logic collapses, so do jobs. So do dealerships. So do futures. for workers, for suppliers, for entire communities. This isn't posturing. This isn't politics. This is math. And the numbers are unforgiving. So stay alert, stay informed, and stay ready. Because this war isn't being fought with bombs or speeches. It's being waged in silence,